welcome back to Anchor Designs. I'm James and today we're going to be restoring a record vise number 74. There's a few little bits missing on here that I don't actually have. One is the swivel base, so this is designed to swivel, move around. I'll get a bit more onto that later. But I'm missing this section that actually sits inside here. With this piece has been made. I haven't made this, by somebody else. So I've kind of got to restore what I can. Sorry, it's not fully complete, but it's as complete really as I can kind of get it. So follow along. I'm going to go through some of the history, some of the more details and features of this vise. It is quite unique in some of its benefits. So I'm going to flip over now to voiceover James and let's get started.
To get everything started, we are going to disassemble the vise completely. Anything that's a screw, bolt, nut or anything that's on here, we're going to take it off and we're going to go through everything and repair, replace and mend anything that we need to. Starting off, which is the anvil bolt here that just goes onto the side, which is just a square bolt, and I'm using the Hand Tool Rescue Abingdon spanner to do this. We're going to now take off the main screw cover, which is this sheet metal press component that's on the side here. This should be just plain steel. It shouldn't be body coloured, as I'm going to call it. It shouldn't be red. This is just going to be cleaned up. And I might blue it, depends, but I'm probably going to leave it as its original state. What this is then going to allow us to do is just access all the threads at the back and keep disassembling. We're then going to remove the lead screw on the actual body now, which is the sliding jaw. And to do this, there is a small pin that we need to knock out with a brass drift, and then we'll be able to remove the spring, as you'll see in a minute. I'm just going to go around, clean everything up best that I can. Maybe put some penetrating oil on there, just to make life a little bit easy for us. Okay, you can see here that we're just going to be putting in the vise now into our bigger vise, which is a record number 25, which was a restoration that we did previously on the channel. It was quite an early on video. It's not the best, but it's pretty good for showing you on the larger vices if you're looking to restore one of those as well. And it includes quite a bit of history on record, previous, old, and today. So it's quite an interesting video. Go check that out. These brass punches that I'm using now, they're quite expensive. You can make your own if you've got your own lathe, or more often than not, I tend to use just a piece of scrap if I can. And then I'm going to just use this steel punch to take out the rest of the punch. Now you'll see here that I'm using this plastic wrap. I've done enough restorations now to understand that when something is under tension, there is a spring behind the pin that we've just released, and I have a pretty not a very good for seeing things in my workshop. I won't say it was dark, but there's a lot of things where it can roll down. My floor is very uneven, and anything like this, if you knock the pin out and the spring goes flying, you're never going to see that spring again. So I just take the precaution there of wrapping everything up, and it just ensures that it's not going to go anywhere. It wasn't too bad. I could have done this inside of a bag, but I'm trying to make a video. I don't like using plastic where I don't need to, but I'm trying to make a video here. So you see now we've taken out the spring and the washer and the main lead screw now as well, so we can remove those, put those to one side, and we'll come back to those later. Okay, the next part is always the hardest part when you're restoring a vise, is removing the changeable jaws. Often the jaws have never been removed from when it was made, so it's always going to be a little bit of a battle. I'm using some rubberized matting. I haven't got any soft jaws that are any good. I bought some Draper ones that were pretty expensive actually, and they're just rubbish. I'm going to try and make this as easy as I possibly can for myself, and just removing as much ingress of dirt on these slotted screw heads as possible. And I'm going to be making sure that I'm using a decent quality screwdriver and the widest possible bit I can actually physically get in that slot. More often than not, the reason why flat-headed screws get broken is because people are using like a 3mm wide in a 12mm wide screw. So yeah, you're going to just strip that out there, and as soon as you strip cap heads, they're a bit of a nightmare to get done. So before I get the big guns out, I'm just going to go through these and see if I can remove any of them by hand, which I can't. So I'm going to be using what's called a impact driver, which is one of these. This one in particular is made by Snap-on, but you can buy the cheap ones. I don't know what they're like, but I've only ever used this one. It's always suited me really well, and it's kind of never let me down. I've broken a few bits, which you'll see a little bit later on, but yeah, typically it's always been pretty good. This tool I bought second hand, and it was probably, I bought it, I don't know, a few years ago now, and it's probably 30-40 years old. It's got the old Snap-on logos on there, but it's always suited me really well. So more often than not, the older the tool, the better it's going to be condition wise. Just need to make sure it's still working. This basically works by your impact on the top, and it's kind of got like a sprung thread in there, so when you hit it, it's going to force that thread down, and it's going to, as you impact, it's going to try and spin that bolt out of there. With this, I'm going to be using a nylon mallet to start off with. You'll notice throughout this video that I'm just gradually stepping up of what I'm using. So I started off with a screwdriver, see if I can do it by hand. I've done the impact, I've got a nylon mallet, and then move up to an engineering mallet. I'm going to try a little bit of heat. So it's kind of, don't throw everything at it once, because you'll end up getting very frustrated, and it's often climbing the stairs. I was having a little bit of a nightmare here. They weren't moving at all. Tried heat, and I was getting to starting to get a little bit, not frustrated, but a little bit concerned. And I was thinking, how can I kind of get these squared up on the milling machine to then just drill out these bolts and start again. And it was starting to become a little bit of a headache.
Let's go make a drink.
So I went away, probably gave it half an hour. I soaked these in penetrating oil before I left the workshop, and I've now just come back and I'm taking my time. I've had a breather, and I think we're starting to get somewhere. As you can see now, they are just inching away, just kind of moving along. I don't know what it is, whether, leaving it for half an hour with the oil in there. I did soak this the night before. Didn't massively focus, putting loads and loads on the jaws the night before, but I think just having that time and leaving them, and just tea's magic, it's magic stuff. And it's the same with the next one. It came out, started to move, just kind of jogging it round. What I tend to do is tighten them and then untighten them and then gradually unwind them. So you're not trying to push a load of, if there is something on the threads, just gradually do it and go through. And I'm stepping down and stepping down with the hammer and going back to a nylon mallet just to chase those out. There's no use trying to use a sledgehammer on here and to do it. The tool's not going to work any better, in my opinion, with using a massive sledgehammer on there. Just not going to do it. So just on the stationary jaw side, we're now going to be doing the sliding jaw. Similar kind of problems really. It went through the same procedure as the last one. Oil, did a bit of heat, went round, and these were kind of a little bit easier. Don't know why, but these did seem to move a little bit quicker than the other ones. I did use a copper mallet here, just instead of using the ball peen hammer instead there.
Not just. Back to workshop, James, and I'm knackered. How's that? Can you see a bit better? Whew. Hit subscribe, please.
We got there in the end. Now there is a few ways of removing those. If you haven't got an impact driver, you can use like a stick welder or try welding on some bars there. The problem that I found with that, I have done it before, but you know, if you are using something like a stick welder or a MIG welder and then trying to weld a bar onto there, is you can potentially mess the jaws up. Now you can find replacement jaws. You can find them if you know where to look. There are certain places like machine tool dealers and tooling companies. One is the Sheffield Tooling Company, that have got a small amount of surplus jaws from the record factory. They have got some. Not guaranteed that they have your size, but they typically have the larger sizes, sort of 4 and 6, so you might get lucky if you can find them, or you can make them yourself. I've done them before, and they do take quite a lot of time and quite a lot of tooling. If you are watching this in the future, as in later than April 2020, we're currently in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, so a lot of supplies and things that we have are not available. Now I'm using Paint Stripper. This isn't one that I typically use, nor do I recommend it. It's not very good. But it's the only thing that I could kind of get hold of that was very, very local to me. Just did a quick time lapse here. You will gradually notice the change and the difference. The reason why I'm using Paint Stripper and not just wire wheeling this, I don't know what the paint content is. It might be lead-based paint, I'm not sure. I haven't got a paint checker. They're quite expensive for what they are. As well as the auto vices have very, very beautiful lettering in there, and if you're kind of forcing a wire brush to try and get into those nooks and crannies, then you're just going to gradually damage that that beautiful lettering on the vices. And I think Paint Stripper for this in particular application was the right choice. The Paint Stripper itself wasn't very good.
Welcome back to Workshop Me. So, whilst the other parts are drying, we have got to tackle a little bit of a problem, which is replacing these. Now, yeah, I could reuse these, but you know, we do a proper job here at Anchor Designs, so we are going to we're going to bodge it another way. If you're watching this in a few years later down the line, and if we're still around, We're currently going through the coronavirus here in the UK and around the world. So, I'm a bit limited to kind of supplies and bits and bobs that I can get. All the engineering firms around me are officially closed. So I've kind of got to go a bit old school. Now, these are, from what I can make out, well, they are BSF. The 5/16 thread size on here. So he says, there you go. So yeah, 5/16 BSF, which is British Standard Fine, which was very common in the period. And I don't have any 5/16 bolts. Now, obviously, these are not off-the-shelf item. This is something that I'm either going to have to make, or I don't know, find someone who restores vices regularly, or someone parting out a vice. But the chances are these are pretty knackered. Now, for those machinists out there, BSF is, especially, well, 5/16 is a very similar pitch thread to M8. So much so that I'm going to demonstrate. This is a M8 bolt. And there's a M8 nut. And here is an M8 nut on a 5/16 BSF bolt, like so. Now, it doesn't go all the way in, so what we can do is look at our options. So I want to match these as best as I can. This isn't the right or the best bolt for the job, but it's the right one for the restoration. So it should be a slatted headed bolt, which is the ones I've got are these, which are M8. Now, as we've said, we're always going to have to modify this shank here and this top to get this to fit. The ideal situation would be to return, a complete new, 4 bolts down, and then tap these on, etc. And I could do that. I have a Myford lathe in the corner. I could do that if I wanted to. 2 options with that. I don't have any round stock this kind of size. My smallest stock at the minute is 25mm, and I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. It was going to take me probably a long time to get this done, and I haven't got that time in my life right now. So what we're going to do is use the M8. We're going to countersink these. We're going to get these down to size from here. We've already got the right size slot, which is fantastic, and we're going to make these fit. Now, in 50 years' time, which Anchor Designs Junior will probably be restoring this vise, we'll copper slip these up. We're not going to be tightening these. This vise will not be used in a production environment for the rest of its life, probably. Certainly not for the rest of my life or my ownership. So I'm going to make these work for us where we are today. If you don't like that, tough, because that's where we are. So what we need to do, we're going to leave these overnight in some vinegar to take off this coating. We're then going to get these cherry red, so then they are soft. We're then going to machine these, and then we are going to re-semi-harden these back again to make machine bolts. So let's go to bed. But first off, let's put these in some vinegar. You're probably wondering why we're doing this. Now, I could heat these up, and it would naturally burn off the coating, which isn't very safe. I'm going to bed anyway, so I may as well take the coating off. I'm just using some distilled vinegar, which is an acid that's just going to take off those bits of that coating that's on these. And then tomorrow we'll soften them up, we'll machine them up, and we won't get zinc poisoning. We'll be nice and safe. I'll see you tomorrow.